How do engineers try to improve road safety for pedestrians and bicyclists? A common approach is to look to see where the crashes and injuries are happening, and then to prioritize corridors and intersections with high numbers, or if we have count data as well, high rates. But what if the street or intersection looks so unsafe that nobody wants to walk or bike there in the first place? Well, the good news is that we won't have many pedestrian or bicyclist crashes or injuries to count. The bad news is that we won't be able to single it out as a safety concern that's worth fixing. Now, why does this matter? When we look at child pedestrians and bicyclists, transportation engineers point out that their road safety outcomes have been steadily improving for decades. In the 1980s, more than 1,800 kids in the United States died each year while walking or biking. Now, it's fewer than 300 annually, despite big increases in population. Unfortunately, these numbers can be misleading because they don't account for how much kids are walking and biking, also known as exposure. If children aren't walking and biking as much as they were in the 80s and 90s, if they're now being driven to most of their destinations, as data suggests, then we should expect fewer active transportation deaths and injuries. This means that our roads may not be any safer than they were. Instead, maybe they've gotten so unsafe that kids aren't walking and biking anymore. And while child walking and biking deaths have declined over time, the reality is that car crashes remain the number one cause of death for Americans aged 5 through 24. So, if we want to help make walking and biking a viable option for kids, and we don't want to have to sit around waiting for them to get hurt or killed before identifying the safety problems, we need a proactive approach. We need to be able to identify these hidden safety problems, and that's exactly what we try to do with this research. But how can we do this? How can we possibly know where people might want to walk or bike but aren't doing so because of safety concerns? To help get us started, we first focused on kids, in part because kids have a more limited subset of destinations, like schools and parks, but also because we believe that if we first design our cities so that children can safely walk and bike and include wheelchair accessibility, then our cities will automatically become safer for just about everyone. Instead of examining crashes like traditional safety analysis, we used perceptions as a proactive indicator of safety issues. We started by asking parents what types of streets they would or wouldn't want their elementary or middle school kids walking and bicycling on. The survey used dozens of pictures of real streets that varied in terms of the number of lanes, speed, traffic volumes, and whether or not there was a sidewalk or bike lane. We got nearly 1,000 responses from parents of over 1,300 kids. We next modeled these responses as suppression rates for various types of roadway scenarios. The suppression rates allow us to calculate the likelihood that a child would walk or bike based on the distance from their home to their school and the types of roads along the route. We tested all this out in Denver, Colorado, and when we compared our results against a conventional crash hotspot analysis, we were able to identify numerous hidden safety problems that would have been missed if we'd only focused on crash data. We were also able to identify hidden equity issues. In other words, these hidden safety issues were more likely to affect Hispanic and Black populations, as well as lower income neighborhoods. What can we do with this information? Well, we can include hidden safety issues when we prioritize funding for road improvements. We can also use this method to optimize what the best location would be for building a new elementary school, choosing a location that the greatest number of children can safely walk to. In either case, we're suggesting that supplementing traditional reactive crash analysis with this sort of proactive approach will help improve safety where children are currently walking and bicycling, as well as where they want to walk or bike. Do you want to try this out in your city? If you have the right GIS layers, you can download our ArcGIS tool and try this out for yourself. If you can't find the right layers, the underlying mindset should help any community that's looking to provide safe, healthy, and equitable active transportation for all. And also help us make sure that Vision Zero, the idea that all traffic deaths are preventable, is more than just a catchphrase to describe business as usual. If you want to read more, click the links below. This research was done by Nick Ferenchak, who worked on this while at CU Denver, but is now an assistant professor at the University of New Mexico, and Wes Marshall, a professor of transportation at the University of Colorado, Denver. This video was made by me, Faffs Riederer. For more research of this kind, check out the Transportation Research Center at CU Denver, a part of the College of Engineering, Design, and Computing. Thanks to the Mountain-Plains Consortium and the U.S. Department of Transportation for funding this research.